raise as 2 terms, I mean, elevate it. Would the residents be eligible or subject to the Uniform Relocation Act of 1969?
You're expecting us to answer that?
The answer is yes.
Huh?
The answer is
What
Well,
does that
well,
mean?
clearly, Quentin, we are not in a position to answer that question today. None of us are attorneys. But I think it's a valid question to ask that we probably should pursue if we look at the legal aspects of this.
Yeah.
And if they are eligible, what exactly does that mean?
Well, it means that if they're relocated, they get the fair market value of the property, $25,000 additional payment, and moving expenses. I've used it over 5,000 times,
Who would be responsible for that?
the CDD.
Would be responsible for those costs?
Yes,
Why?
Are you certain of
federal
that?
law,
Huh?
pretty sure.
Okay. Well,
So that's an issue. The other thing about moving a structure, which is what you talked about, I've moved a few, and it's not cheap, but it can be done. You pick them up, you move them. I did this up in the Midwest, not in Florida with sandy soil, but it can be that much different than down here. So consider that as an option. But speaking for the Viadana board, the Viadana board wants this solved. We want our electrical box problem solved too, and getting a response from Florida Power and Light is almost like dealing with Comcast. I thank you for your attention to this, and I thank Bob particularly for his diligence in keeping us informed. Thank you.
I think the electrical box might be more appropriately directed to the HOA now. Well, only because I think they'd have a lot more clout.
Florida Power and Light has told us that they'll raise the box for $20,000.
They've done that
Hold a
in
big
other
sale.
communities too. They've done that in other parts of Pelican Preserve also. They just said tough.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
What do the residents think about raising their house?
Ask them.
Scary.
Anybody have a comment about raising your house?
Are you saying RAZ knocked down or RAIS?
Elevate.
Okay.
Elevated.
Okay.
We'd rather not do that.
Yeah.
That was a good question, raise.
We'd rather not do that.
That was an underlying current. No, I didn't do that on purpose.
my suggestion here is that we proceed with looking at some of the other legal aspects of it, probably we haven't looked
Okay.
at before. Who might be the responsible party, and Quentin's question about relocation should be probably included in that.
If you'll send me an email on that, Quentin, then I can just forward it, because I'd never be able to capture what you said.
That's pretty efficient to buy them out. I mean, we're talking over $1 million to buy out 4 condos.
Oh, my house is worth a lot more than that.
So
Okay.
It doesn't seem to be one of the most cost effective.
I understand that, but I think we ought to understand
What the options are.
What I need to find out is if
we are not, I mean, the CDD board sent this to us for some kind of endorsement, actually an endorsement of the study.
Right.
And I think we are not ready to endorse that
I
study
agree with that.
today. I think that message, needs to go back to the CDD, that we're not ready to do that at this point.
Well, they're willing to support what we're doing right now. We're just saying we're gonna hold off until we do more investigation.
I agree with the homeowners, Quentin, and the rest of the homeowners, that we need to come to some resolution and get some kind of a solution. But this is a real conundrum, as far as we're concerned, because we would be spending, were we to take one of these hefty solutions, and even just doing the study, we're spending money of the entire Pelican Preserve, and it's pretty expensive stuff. So I think it's incumbent upon us to continue to look into this situation.
Yeah, it was very important for the work group, Pon's work group, to get a full hearing, so everybody's hearing it at one time, that we all understand the amount of money we're looking at. We have a lot of sympathy for the residents, but I'm just not comfortable with, from a little work group of 10 people saying, okay, let's go spend, starting out $100,000. That was not comfortable with trying to make that decision alone.
Well, I think it's the consensus of the committee that we ought to go back and look at the legal aspects of that.
Right.
And we thank all of you for your interest, obviously, attending the meeting, and we'll keep you posted. We understand the problem. It's a really tough one, and we will keep pursuing it.
And as a temporary measure, if we're threatened by rain, we will have the sandbag brigade ready, but we'll also now pursue, I guess Tyler, I'd like Tetra Tech to do that, to get either studies of somebody that would remediate it, what they think that would be. If that's the lowest cost alternative, we might want to do that.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Tyler, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank everybody. You folks can hang in there or leave.
Make a housekeeping comment.
Sure.
We talk about meeting minutes. If you can't hear your voice being projected and they can't hear it to record, we can hear Mr. Gefford. You not so much, Nancy, you not at all.
That's way too far away.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm just saying that's where it comes in because the
Thank
meeting
you all.
minutes are coming
Thank you.
from the
Thank you
recorder.
again for coming.
Better?
Yep, okay. Is that better? Yeah. Okay, financial report, Nancy, I assume you,
Will be non-existent this month. I've been gone for a month, so I've done nothing since the last meeting.
hopefully we won't run out of money.
I don't think we're gonna run out of money. We're in good shape.
Okay, next is association manager report and Securitas. So Scott, you're up.
Scott Charnock, property manager, Pelican Preserve. I'd like to introduce our new district manager of Securitas, and if it's acceptable to you, let her give her brief report and introduction, so she may go on about her business. Danielle?
Hello, good afternoon. Danielle Harmon with Securitas. Just a few quick things first. I've replaced Matt Travis. He's gone on to do bigger and better things. We wish him well. I understand he did a great job in the past year here. So I plan on keeping that momentum. Also, we will be losing Chris, our supervisor. He's also leaving us. Same thing. He's moving on to bigger and better things with his life. We do have a replacement. His name is Darius Nemekis. You'll see him around. He was a lead at Shell Point Community for 3 years for Securitas, so he's got experience, and I think he'll do a great job for Pelican Preserve. So, any questions on kind of the changes that we're making?
Anybody on the committee have any
No.
questions of Danielle?
I do have a couple other things, some of the things that Matt addressed on a regular basis with you all, I plan to continue. One of those things I understand, it was brought up in the past, so Lennar completed their construction patrol. We ended that on October 1st. So, for the cost, if the association wanted that to continue, I've got a monthly number for you and an annual number for that. So monthly, we're looking at $8,725, which is an annual number of $104,700. So that's what we're looking at if we wanted to reinstate that construction patrol once again.
I would look, Scott, to you commenting on the consequences of not having the construction patrol. Because I think we need to understand this, we're talking about a lot of money here.
Well, first of all, it's not a budgetary number, or I mean, it's not in our budget. As far as what they did was, they would actually monitor the construction sites and cover New Pelican. So what this does is it expands the current patrol officers' area and eliminate the oversight of the construction sites. So what that would mean to the community is that if the patrol officer was called to multiple sites, it may increase the time. What I would recommend is, I would recommend to wait and see. Over $100,000 for an individual is a lot of money, and we have not budgeted that. So if it's something that we need to consider based on the demands of the community, we can go back and revisit it at that time. But I have not run into any difficulties since it was discontinued. And, you know, Lennar doesn't care about their construction sites, so.
Yeah.
Exactly. I wasn't gonna say that, but thank you, Nancy.
Yeah. Scott and I agreed when we found out this was gonna happen that we would at least extend it to this meeting, without coverage from the 1st to the 10th of October. So what we would do is the current patrol would just have an extended patrol and would cover everything but the construction sites.
I've seen the patrols going through Prado and all the Cypress Grove Boulevards. I mean, that car's been through all of them.
He drives all through Casella.
So I don't know that he'd be expending anything.
He does.
You know, I mean, yeah, who cares about Lennar's stuff?
Okay, I think that the consensus of the committee is, at least for now, we're not gonna spend $100,000 a year to do something. So Danielle, thank you for presenting us with that choice anyway.
Absolutely. So one of the other things, we have our traffic counts, that I'll just start and pass those around. So the traffic counts this month, we had 7,774 guest passes issued and scanned. The lane barcode reads, the resident lane, we had 44,694. These numbers total 52,468, just a total of 10 difference between last month. So September was almost exactly the same as August. There is a slight trend of lower counts year over year, so we're looking at that to see what that could possibly be.
Or you mean compared
Compared
just in
to
the
last year.
passes issued in August or
Correct,
September?
yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, there's about
Significant.
1,000 difference year over year, so we're looking at what that could possibly be, because it is a little strange.
construction trucks coming.
That's a possibility. It could be, just lower traffic in general for
Okay.
construction or whatnot. So the last item I have that Scott brought to my attention was it was asked about having access to our vision system, which is the system that our patrol officer uses to scan the points around the community. It gives us different analytics and things like that. So just wanted to give you the information that it is possible. If any of the members wanted to have access, the PPAC members, we could do that. It just requires a online training with our corporate team. They go through a provisioning process, and then you get your access after that. So I think Scott mentioned that maybe Ron would be interested in that.
Sure, what specific kind of
Yeah,
information would
yeah,
become
what-
available?
Well,
I
if
don't
you-
remember this discussion, Frank.
If you recall, this had to do with the sidebar we did outside of the Magnolia Room, Phil and Nancy, in regard to reports
Mhm.
that we were receiving, their incident reports.
Oh, yes.
So
This is on incident.
that's all part
Part
of
of the
this.
incident. Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's really up to the committee or individual members if they want to pursue that.
Can you give us, Danielle, what kind of, before we make that decision, what kind of information we would be able to get, like,
Or to simplify it,
yeah,
we can just add those members who want copies of the incident reports emailed to you.
mm-hmm, okay,
To Ron? Okay,
yeah,
we can do that.
okay, all right, so go with that.
Easy.
They should all be so easy.
And like I said, all that requires, I'll get your information and our corporate will do a quick training session with you on how to use the system.
Can't.
No, we're just gonna
You just
email.
email?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just
Okay,
gonna,
we
what
can
I'm
do-
gonna do is I'm just going to take your email and forward it to.
That works.
Okay.
Okay, we'll simplify it then.
Yeah, real simple.
So I believe that's all I had.
Okay, thank you, Danielle, and welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
I have a comment on some security.
Yeah.
We have, we've been kind of inferred from the police that have patrolled our communities that if rolling stops aren't all that bad, if people are looking, that they're aware they're doing it. But we had an incident about 2 weeks ago, cost our neighbor $162 for a rolling stop. She said she wasn't rolling, she'd stopped, and the police officer simply said, "See you in court." So they're getting stricter, so
Yeah, I
we
have,
don't want to get those, rolling stops aren't working anymore.
yeah, I have some comments on that under the safety and security work group.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay, no, that's perfectly appropriate.
Could I ask a question? Hi, this is really for Danielle. I'm Cecilia Haas from Casella Way. Two questions. The first is, when you leave the campus, when the property, in the evenings and weekends, the arm is down, and I don't understand why. I'd like to know why the passenger, the access arm is down when you're exiting the property.
So that people can't come in through the exits at
Yeah.
night.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
reason we made the decision to have that down, not full-time. It's not during the weekdays,
Yeah.
but we made the decision to have it down.
At 5 PM it should be coming down.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I just
Yeah.
didn't understand. I
Yeah.
forgot my other question, because I'm in a senior community, so.
You'll fit right in.
Thank,
What was,
thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Scott, you have some other,
One last item. We're talking about permits and engineering. And we're talking about the bridges.
Still?
Well, of course, it wouldn't be the same. I did some checking, and even Jim Torba, he told me with bridges in a community that handle golf carts, plan on 4 months. I'm in my 4th month now, and we got our permit rejected again because the last person that was the final sign-off was concerned about horizontal spacing at the handrails. Basically, what we have to do is add another 1,300 lineal feet of handrail, which means adding 2 additional levels of handrail, so our members don't crawl through and jump in. I guess that's the mindset. So we had to make a change order, and the change order for the bridges was another $5,830. So I know that Chris signed off on it, but I needed you to ratify that change order today.
I told Scott that we should go ahead with this because I didn't wanna hold up the engineering of this thing. We're already spending $209,000, we wanna get it done, so gave the permission to go forward. Chris signed off on it, so,
Well,
Any questions?
we learned last week in the meeting that the permit department of City of Fort Myers has got lots of money.
yeah, you're right, yeah.
And they've been given some hefty discounts. So I think, Mr. Schumacher, we need to apply for a 75% discount to that fee. I'm serious, I think we can get it.
Permit application?
Permit application.
Yep. For the City of Fort
Yeah,
Myers.
yeah, in fact, they said they had been giving 50% discounts, they're now giving 75%
Right,
discounts.
so we need to, I don't remember the gentleman's name, this was in a meeting
Yes.
conducted by Gail Anthony last
Right.
week at the firehouse.
Right,
We ought to
and it was the,
go to that board, or you can send me the invoice, whatever they gave us for the 5,000, and I'll run with it.
I don't think they broke that permit fee out separately from the fee you paid, maybe so.
Well, maybe they didn't, but if he's now saying we need a new one because
Yes.
of,
No, it's an ongoing permit. It's the same permit. It's just getting rejected and being sent back for engineering.
And the 5,000 is the added cost of adding the horizontal.
oh, I thought it was just for the permit.
No, it's adding the additional linear
Maybe I
footage.
misunderstood.
Yeah.
I thought it was in a permit fee.
permit,
No.
no, that's not the permit fee.
No, it's material and labor.
Yeah. Any other questions about that?
And then the last item is the projected start date, as long as it gets through the final approval, will be I would say more like the second week of November, and it will take 50 days to complete the work on all 4 bridges. 50 days, yes. 2 months. So we will close 1 bridge at a time. So,
Okay.
that's all I have.
I would like a motion to, approve the extra expenditure of $5,800, Scott, is that what it is?
5830.
5830.
So instead of having 2 planks below the railing,
Yes.
we're now gonna have 3 planks.
Yes.
So we don't crawl through the.
I haven't seen anybody in Pelican skinny enough to get through what we got. I'm sorry.
You can get on their knees to get them.
I don't think permitting takes into account common sense, but I mean, again,
Or
It is government, never mind.
it is government,
We're
yes.
dealing with government here. Yeah, I have a motion to approve the,
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Ron moves, Bob seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
John, you with us?
Aye.
You're aye too, okay. And it carries unanimously.
That's all I have.
That's all you got. Thank you very much.
You're
sir.
welcome.
Okay, we are on to selection of new members. Let me say, for the benefit of the people who are here, we had, and we were very pleased, a very enthusiastic response to our call for people to volunteer for membership on the committee. We got 13 applications. Your enthusiasm has made the decision process a little bit more complicated, partially, largely because we're not allowed to speak to each other between meetings. So getting this thing done is going to be a little tricky, but you will hear, we cannot have secret ballots, so you will hear who everybody votes for, and we may have to have several ballots in order to get the job done because of the 13 people who applied. What I would do is I would invite each of you who has applied to just stand and say your name so that at least the members can see who you are before we vote. So can we start in the front row here? Teresa, you wanna?
Sure. I'm Teresa Phillips, full-time from Prado. Oh,
No, that's okay. No, you don't have to.
Okay.
I think we're okay.
that good? Did you want to say something? Okay, well, I'm Diane Hanley, and I'm also from Prado, and as my letter, I don't want to call it a resume, said that I've been an HOA president in 2 different communities, so I have some experience.
People in the,
Hi, I'm Donna Spotto. I was an elected official back home for 32 years, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the things you're discussing as far as infrastructure and sewers and roadways and all those items. I live in Prado as well.
Everybody in Prado.
The other folks back there, you're not candidates, okay.
And I just say that I am an attorney.
Okay.
Well, you were doing good before that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this supposed to be a good thing or a bad thing?
You really wanted
Maybe I
to.
should have kept that to myself.
Okay. I think the way we're just going to proceed on this process, all the members have ballots in front of them. And I'm gonna ask that on this first ballot, that you write in the names of two people. As I described in the process for doing this, if any of the people, any of the candidates receive a majority of the votes on the first ballot, they will be automatically they will be selected. If they don't, then we have to go on to a second ballot. We've got a process for doing that. And John, you're gonna have to just do yours verbally.
Okay, you want me to go first or last?
Yeah,
I'll go first.
why don't you go first?
Who's keeping tally? Is it Chris or John?
Chris is gonna tally them,
Okay.
so, and he will also read out who you voted for. So I ask you to make your selections. Go ahead, John.
Okay, my selection would be Glenn Sikorsky
Okay,
and Teresa Phillips.
okay. 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 Everybody else? You already passed yours in?
Yep, I'm ready for round two.
Okay. Okay. We'll let Chris tally those up and then tell us where it stands and read off the votes of each person. By the way, I should add, for those of you who are here, this was a very tough thing to do. Very difficult. A lot of very, very talented people with a lot of good background applied. And I know if my struggle with making a selection was like that of the other members, we all kind of struggled.
That's a good thing, though.
Oh, yes, we were very gratified that there was so much enthusiasm.
In years past, we couldn't
We
drag
couldn't-
anybody to.
Yeah, we had difficulty even getting members, so.
I think when I joined, there was nobody else
That's right.
applied, was there?
You're right.
I had competition.
Well, I'm really very, very happy to see, almost all of us on this committee, for most of the time the committee's been in existence, have been from, quote, old Pelican. So it was wonderful to see the interest from the Cypress Grove
Cypress Grove.
side of the community.
And I'm from Carina, Cypress Grove.
I'll read the original John Grega. He had Glenn Sikorsky and Teresa Phillips on the first round. Joe Schofield, Glenn Sikorsky and Donna Spato, first round. Mr. Grega, Mr. Measy had Glenn Sikorsky and Teresa Phillips. Nancy Olson, Glenn Sikorsky and Teresa Phillips. Ron DePonte, Glenn Sikorsky and Teresa Phillips. Bob Geppert, Donna Spato and Marion Loudon. And Nancy Hall, Glenn Sikorsky and Al Slickers. So basically, if you're looking for a majority, Teresa Phillips has 4 votes and Glenn has 6.
So I guess,
Sounds like we're done.
It sounds like we're done. We didn't have to go through a very complicated process. Again, those of you who were not selected, Diane and Donna, we thank you for applying.
There's always the CDD board that they could run for if you,
Oh, yeah.
They have an HOA board too, don't you?
That's right. Well, I would like to, at this point, express the thanks of those of us on the committee who are gonna stay on the committee, to both Nancy Hall and Nancy Olson for their service, on the committee. They have both made tremendous contributions, and we really appreciate what both of you have done. I should tell you, Teresa, that you're not there yet. This has to now be endorsed by the CDD board. That's generally not a problem, but Chris will provide you with the candidate applications that you can use when we take this to the board. Hopefully, can we get it on the next board agenda?
no, that's already been published for the next board meeting. It has to be out a week ahead of time prior to the meeting, so that agenda's already been posted on the net.
Or we can do it as a walk-on.
Yeah.
Not in favor, but.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is that even if we wait till the meeting after that, it will still precede our next meeting.
That's what I was gonna say.
So I don't think that's a real problem. And Teresa and Glenn, we can kind of bring them aboard under the assumption.
It'll be on November 7th.
Right, it'll be on the November 7th board, so.
Can I also add that for all the candidates who didn't get selected, we've got a lot of committees coming up with the master that are going to need a lot of volunteers.
What's the master?
The Master Association, PPCA.
Yeah, so that, I would second Nancy's comment. We got tons of stuff to do in the Master Association, and so.
And I
Sure.
would just like to say thank you.
Go ahead, your opportunity.
I appreciate it.
Okay, we look forward to working with you. Okay, Ponds Work Group report.
Okay, we got a few things to cover today. Okay, we have the ongoing and never-ending downspout initiative is we're hoping to get finished with everything to do with Prado, or Carina, excuse me, this month. I have distributed the last page of the minutes today, or our packages, the budget. And so if I can kind of walk you through this very quickly, for 2018-19 fiscal year that ended on 9/30, we have reporting information through 8/31, and we have spent a total of, what did we spend? $851,959, which is the next to the last right-hand side number, against a budget of $774,400. So we're over at this point $120,000. The very first line down in the detail dated 9/30/18 says that we moved into this year with a carryover budget of $532,900. So we're still well under our spending authority. And the reason we get such variation, if you look at this, the downspout initiative is by far the greatest use of our funds at $480,000. And I expect that will continue in the next year at pretty heavy spending.
Now, to the degree that the funds to do this come out of our reserves, in effect, they don't show up in our current.
This is only waterway fund, this is waterway reserves, yes.
Current,
Absolutely.
it doesn't show up in current
No.
waterway spending.
And I would expect that sometime in the next 30 days, I will get a new balance forward into this coming year from Stephen, and I expect it to come into the range of $400,000. And as our spending goes forward, we're still installing aeration, primarily in the new Cypress Grove neighborhoods. We are still installing downspouts, as I said previously, in Carina, and then we're gonna move on to Matarita. Prado and Pistoia will have minimum requirements for money for downspouts because that has been provided by Lennar, by our, what do we call that, the permit criteria manual. We do have some problems with aeration in those neighborhoods on all 5 ponds, and working with Lennar to get them fixed. At this point in time, they're not fixed, but Lennar has, and I met with them this morning on site, and supposedly the electric is now connected to all these homes. In the past, I told you they ran extension cords across the lawns and tapped into people's houses. Well, we think we've got that part behind us. So the next step, of course, is to put the actual aeration in and get that working. And they've got some new company doing it. The old guy went out of business. I don't know why. But, so I'll keep you posted on that goes forward. We will be making a spending initiative, probably in the order of $25,000 or $30,000 to upgrade those once they are at least at an operating level. We have some problems with the Pond 39 aeration behind the Palazzo buildings. And when they built the last 2 buildings out there on the golf course side, they somehow destroyed our compressed air conduits. We put everything in, we have certified that everything was installed in our easement areas. So how they destroyed it, we don't know. But again, we met on site today out there. Just to repair that one line is gonna be close to $9,000.
And who's responsible?
Lennar.
Yeah,
Lennar.
that's what I'm saying.
Now, I'm fully expecting that they're gonna choke on it like they do on anything that costs them a nickel. So we have simultaneously working on tapping into the construction bond fund that Lennar was required to prior to building of these areas, and we think that money is still there. Tony is investigating how we can start getting into that. So much the same way we went after Old Pelican, we're gonna go after Lennar to fix their construction defects. Okay, let's see. This coming Saturday, we have a ponds meeting on the 12th of October at noon, if anybody's interested in joining us in the town center right at the coffee station and Cyber Cafe. GIS. We have the GIS website. It's up and running and constantly being refined. I'm trying to get right now the only way they can release this thing to us is through a management sign in and password type of a situation. And I met with them Wednesday, and I told them that's not acceptable. We'll have that for one level of detail, but I need another one that's all resident available. So I expect to have that by next week. And then what our intentions are, we're gonna talk about this Friday or Saturday in the ponds meeting, but I expect to take it to Dave Matthews, since he seems to be one of the board members most knowledgeable about internet and things like this. And I'm gonna have him critique what we've done and how to make it more user-friendly so that we can then advertise it to the community at large and that they can look at this, because there's a wealth of data. You can find your house, you can find your plat, you can find your aerators, I mean, down to the house level. You'll know where the downspout piping went in. I mean, it just tells you everything that you ever wanted to know. Who's your lake provider, who takes care of that pond, every pond number, every conservation area, on and on and on and on and on. So it's, I've reviewed it here with this group before. It wasn't terribly user-friendly. We've been working these last 8 months to make it more user-friendly. And I expect to have that rolled out soon. We have 5 stations in the community to record water kind of events. 2 of them are actual rain gauges, and they tell us how much rain we get at specific points in Pelican. 3 other ones are telling us the depth of the water at particular places, usually before and after weirs and things like that. One of the things we're considering this coming Saturday is possibly adding a couple more rain gauges in locations where we have water detection gauges. We're finally getting some printouts of the activity. We started doing this about a year ago. And now we're getting printouts of activities that says what, this one I think is water levels, but we've also got ones that tell us how much rain we're getting. So this should be, again, once we get it all ironed out, we figure out how many we have, this is in conjunction with Gateway, that will make that available also in real time on the web for our residents. We have 2 conservation areas in the community that are still being administered, not conservation, green areas, that are still being administered by the board, the HOA board, versus PPAC. So we're gonna put the data on those 2 areas into our GIS map also, so the residents aren't confused when they look at it. They know everything that we're doing, and they know where it's being done. I mentioned briefly that Lennar is still not responding to the downspout initiative in Prado. So we are going, as I said before, we're gonna go with Tony to try and get that done. We have a number of signs in our community that advise people about woods and wetland areas. And so these signs are getting pretty old now. Most of them are 5 and 6 years old. They're white with the black lettering. So Saturday, Ponds is gonna get a presentation of Pelican quality signs, and we may be replacing all these. So if we do that, we will bring it back to you guys to get a say to it, and probably take it to the board before we do that, so everybody's in bed with it. One community, Prado, has into place in their budgetary process the money to clean the downspouts and the conveyance behind the lots for our downspout type of conveyance. So we don't have that in other communities. So we are pursuing, supporting their effort to do that, finding a vendor that wants to do it and will do it for us, and then rolling that out to all of the other communities, because most of these things have been in there a year now, and it's time to go and get them inspected and blown out.
And each community is supposed to be doing their own.
That was the deal when we put it in.
But Bob had said
Yeah,
early on that they would find a contractor.
PPAC puts it in, and then they go, but we haven't spoon fed them the last step of the way, and we really need to do that, so we will be doing that.
Yeah, most of us are in the process of doing our
Budgets now.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think that is all that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions about the budget or anything else, I'm all ears.
Any questions of Bob?
What time is that pond meeting?
Noon. Noon, 12 noon.
Noon, okay.
And we have invited the Gateway Ponds group, if they would like to join us. They asked me to join their group to kind of give them a little background on, you know, the kind of things we've done and how we've done it and all that. So we're sharing everything we have with them. And so I invited the chairman, Flavia Welsh, and anybody that she wants to bring to also come to the meeting. So they,
What was the date?
this coming Saturday at 12 noon in the Cyber Cafe. So we're trying to get a good relationship with the two groups.
I can only tell you from seeing where Gateway is on this and where we are, there's no comparison. We are miles and miles and miles ahead of.
We've been at it for a long time. And
We have, yeah.
And this committee has supported the work group with money. That's the
Right.
biggie.
And they don't really, they still don't really know where they're going. They're hoping that their ponds group will guide
A
them.
lot of money.
Phil Rovner sent me an invitation to a Castle and
Yes.
Solitude meeting. We had, I think I had 11 people wanted to go, and they had one spot. But nevertheless, the details came to us, the slides and things, and the South Florida presentation was one of the most comprehensive and intelligible explanations of what they do that I've seen. So I forwarded that to my members, and we're going to have a specific Pelican meeting like this. We're requesting that, so that anybody in the community that wants to go, because it was well worthwhile. You know, there was also the normal, you know, noise of somebody was trying to sell us something. We had some suppliers there, but the South Florida water management part of it was particularly accurate and concise. So,
If I
Sure.
may,
Yeah.
How those classes are set up, or seminars with Castle, is they send the invite to board members only, because there's supposed to be board roundtables. So what happens on occasionally, if there's committees that the board thinks would be interested in it, you're getting a delay of getting the information, so in turn the classes fill up, because they only have 24 spots, so.
No, I understood that.
Sorry about that.
No, there's no
Yeah.
apology necessary. It's
Yeah.
great information.
Yeah.
We just love to participate in the future. It was very good.
If for whatever reason that occurs in the future for any type of information, I always send the communication, the backup, the PowerPoint presentations out.
Yeah, they had a little disclaimer way down in there, board members, interested citizens, all that other.
Yeah.
It was buried in the fine print.
Of
which I
course it
liked,
was.
so.
Okay, any other questions of Bob?
Mr. Gephardt, I'll add too with the instrumentation. In the last 2 weeks, the contractor was out and calibrated those instruments, and not only does it give levels, but it's giving volume of water moving through the system.
Yeah, one of the things that well, at least I recently learned, Chris may have known, is that these do have to be cleaned periodically, et cetera, so we want to make sure to put them on a routine package and doing it.
Working on that right now. We're going out to the area behind the Winn-Dixie Plaza over there where it was overgrown, and clearing all that brush, and then we're gonna spray it so it doesn't grow up around those instruments.
Okay, just as an aside for information only, but in our aeration installation phase 2, which is Cypress Grove communities, we didn't have the same quality of installation that we had in area 1, Old Pelican. And we have been addressing those area by area with the guy that put it all in, and up to now he says he's gonna fix everything to our satisfaction. But they did things like having extension cords coming out of compressor boxes, going into electrical panels rather than having it hardwired with conduit. They laid some pipes, white PVC pipes, above ground rather than having them buried, and we've seen some of them break. They ran one air compressor through a conservation area to a pond on 46, and we did that review and said, you can't do that. So we still have, some major issues, not major. We still have some issues going on, but we're making steady progress at it. Nothing is as simple as it seems. You hire the same guy to build a porch on 2 houses that are identical, and the first house is great, and the second house is, oh my God, who are you? So it always surprises me about Florida contractors. I don't know why, but I'm always surprised.
Okay, any questions of Bob? Okay, we'll go on to the Safety and Security Work Group. I will make the report. We didn't have a lot of activity over the summer for a couple of reasons. Number one, the outgoing chairman of the Safety and Security Work Group was involved in other things and didn't exactly get to it. And also, one of our members who's working with the city as to what we have to do on some of the issues we're working on was not here for a good part of the summer, but he is now back. We are looking at a number of items. Number one is the change of the chairmanship of the Safety and Security Work Group.
Number one.
Mr. DePonte will be taking over, and hopefully we'll make things move a little faster. We've got a number of items, just to fit you in on a couple. We're gonna continue, as you know, you voted to put $10,000 in the next budget for police, to bring the police in. Just as a matter of interest, at the president's meeting this morning, one of the presidents asked me whether we had a survey of residents as concerning having the police in here. And he was certainly implying that we were doing something that people didn't particularly like. I said to him, no, we haven't had a survey. And the chairman of the President's Council stepped up and said, how many people in here of the presidents think that they want to have the police in? And I think it was everybody else in the place except the one guy who asked whether we'd done a survey. So
Got a ticket.
so I think we're still on
Kind of like Trapgate, shades of Trapgate.
yeah, exactly. We're on strong ground there. We're gonna be looking at, I think we have to look at doing something permanent at the Azura entrance there where we still have those cones. It's really just a temporary fix, and we really need to do something permanent there. We're gonna be looking at lighting in a couple of places at the gate. That came up in a survey that the Residents Alliance did. And we're going to also looking at lighting at the intersection of Pelican Preserve Boulevard and Cypress Grove. That's another area where people think the lighting is poor, and I think that's valid. The speed limit on Pelican Preserve Boulevard after the bridge, which drops down from 30 to 15 miles an hour, we're gonna take a look at, continue to take a look at whether that speed limit should be increased. So, and then there are a number of others on that, but that's it. And as I say, I hope we'll get a little bit more. We're gonna be repeating something we did a couple of years ago, which were these kind of spot announcements about various kinds of safety issues. And we've already got that in the plan, but we wanted to wait to season to start those. So those are going to go forward.
So this is like separate emails?
Separate, they will be separate emails on various things. I think we also need a clarification of the rules with regard to golf carts and make sure that the police understand what our rules are and what all the residents understand our rules, so we're gonna need to get something out on that too. So I think all of those things need to go on the agenda.
As we sit here today, is the golf cart supposed to be in the bike lane or
No,
not? supposed to be?
the golf cart should be in the right-hand curb lane, which is not a bike lane. It's not a bike lane, should be in the right-hand curb
But
lane.
not in the narrow stripe then?
Huh? Yeah, should be in the narrow, in that 4-foot lane. Should be.
But not required, right?
Huh?
The golf
But
cart
not
should be
required.
there.
Not required,